we're set to get started. Let me give you a little bit of introduction as to how I, as a neurologist and a movement disorder specialist, got interested in the whole mind-body connection. And then the field of mindfulness was through my experience with Parkinson's disease. And we all know how stress affects symptoms, right? Increases tremor, stiffness, you might turn off, dyskinesia may be a little bit worse. And through my training and through the years, we all talk about this and educate one another. Yes, symptoms get worse with stress. And then one day I had this aha moment. And my aha moment was symptoms respond to the place that our mind, our behaviors, the environment that we're in. Very common sense stuff. But it really turned the equation around from the one way stress makes symptoms worse to, well, that means there are other interventions that I could do or ways that I could manage, adapt to my Parkinson's that may improve symptoms or how I live with symptoms. And that's what really interests me in this whole concept of mind-body medicine. And we all know this now. You can't separate the mind, the body, the brain, the spirit. We really are all one. And to look at you as a person with Parkinson's as tremor or rigidity or stiffness really just doesn't represent the essence of you and the experience of you or care partner or just life. The mind truly does interface with the body and influence the body, and also vice versa. We often think of mind-body medicine about how our mind might influence our bodies and sickness and health, our physiology, our physical performance, emotional performance, but the body, in turn, also influences the mind. There's a lot of very good research looking at how it truly is a feedback loop. Now, there are many reasons why, and I'll stand up for a minute, many reasons why we might practice mind-body medicine. And here's just a few, and you'll have some of your own. The obvious is, I just want to perform better. I want to move better, more energy, less symptoms, maybe manage the symptoms of disease if I can. Deal with stress in my life, deal with stress and its influence in my health, behavior, and outlook. And very importantly, and a concept that's so important to this emerging field of neuroplasticity, is enhanced resiliency. You know, life throws at us bumps and bruises, diagnoses, events, experiences that may not be ideal. But how do we enhance our resiliency and our ability to manage and do as we can in that moment? And then some might just look at this more holistically, is this sense of balance. How do I balance? How do I balance everything? Living with Parkinson's disease, living as a care partner to someone with Parkinson's disease, living with my own issues or concerns or life stressors. How do I find that bigger balance? And perhaps even the whole mind-body connection is important to the need to bring sense of value, purpose, and passion into life. Or maybe not bring it, but support that we have. Because sometimes, you know, those fires, those embers might burn out a little bit, and they need to be coached back into flames. There's many reasons to practice mind-body medicine, and there's many reasons to embrace this concept of mindfulness. Let's see if... Now, I have included some poems in the handout for you to take home with you because I think they so well represent the world of mindfulness and truly living in mind, body, spirit much better than I can do, standing up here and lecturing to you all. The human condition, no matter how hard you pursue pleasure and success, there are times when you fail. No matter how fast you flee, there are times when pain catches up with you. And in between those times, life is so boring you can scream. Life is so boring you can scream. Our minds are full of opinions and criticisms. We have built walls all around ourselves, and we are trapped within the prison of our own likes and dislikes. We suffer. This is very powerful and profound for me, and it really does represent so much of the human experience, I might say. But you can also read between the lines. Reading between the lines is just like life is so boring you can scream. And mindfulness helps support our ability to find the beauty in those moments where you would otherwise scream. And we all have them. The human condition. Here's another poem. The range of what we think and do is limited by what we fail to notice. And because we fail to notice, there's little we can do to change until we notice how failing to notice shapes our thoughts and deeds. Simple stuff, but true stuff. One of the things that really fascinates me in life is the simplicity, that the simple things that are genius. My example is the Post-it note. Wow, that was genius. Somebody just put a little bit of glue on a little piece of paper, and look what happened with the Post-it note. That was genius. Sometimes what happens in medicine, sometimes what happens when living with any condition, is those little, small, simple, common sense things are really genius. Because they're small, because they're simple, because they're common sense, we don't necessarily do them any notice. So I hope you don't leave here today saying, well, she just didn't teach me anything. I know all this. We all know all this. That's the beauty of it. There's not anything exceptional that we have to grasp or understand or memorize or come to terms to. We just need to be reminded and to be aware. And it's hard sometimes to be aware of the subtle and the simple and the little things in life. You know, there's research that looks at this whole concept of resiliency. What makes people strong in the setting of distress? And there are many factors. And it really very much interests me to learn that some of these factors were neurologically based. And no matter how you study this, whether it be studied in the laboratory with lab rats, observational studies, behavioral studies with people, mathematical modeling, there seems to be an equation that's important. And the equation is approximately 3-to-1, no matter how you study it. 3-to-1 in this way. 3 positive offset to every 1 negative bias. Negative bias versus positive offset. In other words, those people that stood strong and resilient in the setting of distress, and I don't mean strong physical strong. Everyone defines their definition of strength in different ways, are those that experience life with that 3 positive to 1 negative. And that goes back to, and in between those times, life is so boring, I could scream. Because you might say, I don't have 3-to-1 positive to negative. I have stress in my life. I have Parkinson's. I have this problem or that problem. But researchers also identified that the positives didn't have to be big. It wasn't about whether or not your children were admitted to Harvard and you won the lottery and you got your job promotion. That wasn't it. It was about those in-between moments, the ability to see the power of positivity in the subtle moment. Appreciating the being here, appreciating the smile, the subtleties of everyday experience that without being open and aware to them, we all walk right by. And I think it's especially important now in our, quote, modern day, advanced technologies where we walk by with our phones and our earbuds and our texting and our emails. There's a lot of life we might walk by or not appreciate. And I just wanted to put in a plug for a new book that I am publishing. It will be released at the end of November. This actually is a compilation of the last 20 years of my experience to begin with, that first moment when I realized the impact of stress on symptoms and my journey into integrative medicine. So it's really what I believe is a thoughtful approach of integrating holistic and conventional medicine and some practical tips and guides beyond just the science. So it's available at Amazon, and I have some flyers up here that you can take after. Turns out that this whole concept of mind-body and mind-body therapies is not entirely new to Parkinson's disease, but it is relatively new. We really are behind many other conditions when it comes to looking at the power of mind-body connection, even though Parkinson's, to me, is a condition that should be on the forefront with this exploration. And here's one particular study that looked at people with tremor. And the people with tremor were told to do various things. And tremor was measured well after they performed 15 minutes of various tasks. So the first task is nothing. Come on in the room. That's the baseline. And if the bar is high, that means that there was a high amount of tremor for those individuals. And that was the first bar there. I know you can't see it very well, but I'll walk you through it. They were then also told, well, for the next 15 minutes, let's just sit and listen to relaxing music. A little bit of an improvement in tremor. Now, let's sit and just do whatever you do to relax. If you want to go lie down in a corner or put your feet up, your call. Do whatever you do to relax. Tremor reduced. And then there was a guided imagery, intentional effort to guide the mind into a relaxed and a positive state. I don't have to tell you on this graph which exercise represented the tiny bar at the bottom. It was that guided imagery. What's different about guided imagery than just listening to relaxing music, which is very valuable, or just go and relax in your quiet state? It's the intention. It's engaging the mind cognitively, emotionally, physically in the exercise that we believe leads to this difference. Really does take relaxation to the next level. So this is an impact on tremor. Guided imagery, really guiding your mind into that relaxed place and that present place. Stress makes tremor worse. Well, the flip side of the equation is there are techniques that can help reduce the impact of stress on tremor. And we all know that stress is a part of life. We cannot get rid of stress. It's actually an important part of life, stress is. It's just when stress goes overboard and there's no end to it, that it's a problem. Another way that the mind-body connection holds true in medicine, in disease, and particularly in Parkinson's, is through the placebo effect. The placebo effect really could be thought of as a mind-body observation. We tend to talk about the placebo effect in a very negative way. The placebo is something we don't want. So for instance, in research trials, when we're trying to define whether a treatment is effective, we might compare the treatment to a sugar pill placebo to make sure it is the treatment itself that's doing the job and not a placebo. And so what we do is measure those two outcomes, subtract the placebo from the real thing, and the idea is that is the real benefit of the specific treatment and not the non-specific influence of the placebo. But if you think about that, that's how placebo plays into the role of researching and understanding if a treatment is indeed in and of itself specifically effective. But when you reach for a treatment, you don't leave placebo on the table, right? When you take your pill, go to your exercise class, whatever you might do you say, okay, placebo, I'm going to hang you up, put you on this hook, I've got to take my real treatment now? The outcome is a combination of the two, particularly strong in Parkinson's, and Parkinson's is a wonderful opportunity to discover, to research the placebo effect because of how dopamine is altered in Parkinson's, and dopamine is actually part of our reward system, our motivational system. You could see where this chemical, this neurotransmitter, might even be part of the placebo effect. And there are researchers that look specifically at this in Canada and British Columbia, and there are a few factors that contribute to the placebo effect. Power of mind, power of experience. The first factor is conditioned learning. What you've learned in the past, you will bring forward into the future. So in other words, if you had a good experience with treatment in the past, you will bring that forth into your next treatment going forth. And you can capitalize on that. Alternatively, there's even something called the nocebo effect. If you had a side effect or a negative reaction to a treatment in the past, and then go on to treatment number 2, you might bring that negative influence onto treatment number 2. Now, none of these things are set in stone, and that's where the power that being that mindful and aware is helpful, because being mindful helps you enhance that positive. And if you want to temper and reduce that negative, influence that negative, your mind has the power to intervene. So the placebo effect, something that we in science, in medicine, embrace as tried and true, really is part of this mind-body connection. It's not all crystals and voodoo. Now, the other is the power of expectation, right? If we expect something to work, it will more likely what? Work. There are times I might write a prescription. For instance, physical therapy. How did you do with that physical therapy? Oh, doctor, it wasn't going to help me. It didn't help me. Sometimes I do get that response. If you go into it with that, you will take out of that a portion of that. And the other, which is so very important, and I think so important to this concept of resiliency and mindfulness, which contributes to the placebo effect and probably overrides all, because they all are influencing one another, is value and meaning. The more you value something, it's not just what you expect it to do, but if you value it, if you value the experience, the treatment, the experience during the treatment, the relationships during the therapies, the exercise classes, the dance, the doctor's visit, you name it, the greater the chance of that placebo effect adding power, adding more punch to the actual effect. So this idea of mind-body medicine is as old as the hills. We know that. But sometimes it takes a while for traditional medicine to grasp some of these ideas when they're not quite so tangible. But the placebo effect we can grasp. Now we also know a lot about stress and health. And I already started out this talk about stress and your symptoms. There is a fine balance between this complex picture of the nervous system called the autonomic nervous system. Many of you have heard of this. And there is a branch of neurologic flow, outflow, and activity called the sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is the fight and flight. That's that. Get you revved up and ready to go when you need to move fast, there's a stressful event, and you need to take care of it. Over here is the parasympathetic, rejuvenation and relaxation. Now let me tell you another secret about our nervous systems. We're wired in this direction. We have to work a little harder in that direction. Why are we wired in the sympathetic? The sympathetic, the nerves that fire the sympathetic, fight or flight, actually those nerves fire much more quickly because it's adaptive. We have to identify and react to problems fast, or that lion might come and eat us. That's the biological evolution that we've inherited, where we can take our time to get into that rest and relaxation state. Now, it's a balance, turning on one part of the nervous system when we need to, and the other when we need to. The problem is life is this now. Stress, 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 stress. And it's that chronicity and the inability to turn on that relaxation response that leads to not only emotional distress, but many physical conditions, or worsens many symptoms associated with conditions. And that is the balance. We would like to see a balance where the sympathetic nervous system takes control when you need it, but then the parasympathetic system allows you to relax, rejuvenate, and really recover. But really, that snowball effect, stress begets more stress. And just think about how your own thoughts in the moment might exacerbate this snowball effect. Oh, my tremor's really bad today. It's really shaking. This is really bothering me. I can't get what I need done. And then the mind starts reacting with stress and start pumping out more sympathetic nervous flow. And then the stress increases the tremor. The tremor then increases the cognitive stress and all that negative chatter. And you could see where there's no brakes on this car that's going full speed downhill. And that's what a lot of the mind-body therapies are meant to intervene. And I just put this up as a list of various body functions or measures that are controlled by these various aspects of the nervous system, whether it be sympathetic, fight or flight, or the recovery. And what you see in all mind-body therapies is the same general themes. They work with aspects of these symptoms or these functions that are both controlled by the nervous system and you control. So for instance, think about the fact that you can control your breathing. If you can control your breathing, then you can use that as a tool to then slow the breathing down, regulate the breathing, and actually put more energy into the relaxation part, enhance the parasympathetic nervous system. So you're actually intervening not letting that neurologic control run in autopilot. The same thing for body tension and alertness and cognitive thoughts. And if you really collectively look at all these mind-body therapies, you might say, this one's not for me, this one is for me. There are just many different ways to influence the nervous system like this. So here are some of the very simple mind-body techniques that we can do every day. And these in particular I borrow from the field of mindfulness and mindfulness meditation. Breath work, progressive relaxation, mindful meditation, loving kindness, and then really what it's all about is bringing it home, mindful living. I'd like to take a few minutes and just lead a mindful meditation based on breath work. We take our breath everywhere. If you're alive and still breathing, you can practice breath work. It's free, it's cheap, and it's portable. Again, remember I said the simple things are overlooked? How could even controlling my breathing make any difference? This is just crazy. I need to sign up for that $3,000 special program that does this, that, and the other. One thing to remember is that they call these practices. Practice means that just doing it once, it may not jive, it may not resonate, it might be a little hard, but as you practice, you really do enhance particular areas in the brain, in the nervous system, and get better at it. So we're going to be Olympic athletes of breathing here. So I just invite you to do a simple mindful meditation with me right now. If you choose not to, that's perfectly fine. It's whatever you feel comfortable doing. And I'm going to do it as well with you. And I just invite you to just relax in your chair. You can close your eyes if you like to, if that feels more comfortable. If not, just soften your gaze and relax your face and look forward. And in this exercise, we will be bringing our attention to the breath, knowing that the breath is a vehicle of life that can be used to soothe when needed. And this exercise, just bringing your attention to the breath, experiencing the in-breath, breathing in, holding for a minute, breathing out, breathing in, holding for a second, and breathing out. Feeling the breath as it passes in through your nose, fills your lungs, oxygenates your blood, and breathing out, releasing those toxins, releasing the stress that comes with everyday life. And just knowing you can turn your attention to the breath. Slow in, pause, and slow out. And I invite you, if you so choose, to breathe to a count of 10. And each breath, just gentle in-breath. Pause and exhale. In, pause, and exhale. And at your own speed, at your own rate, breathe to a count of 10. If you lose your place, that's okay. Just pick up where you left off, or I might say where you think you left off. Bringing your attention not to where you should be, not to whether you're doing it right, just to the breath and the power of the breath to influence your nervous system. Breathing in, pause, and out. Feel the breath as it comes in, nourishing your body, filling your lungs, and expelling out. And when you're ready, even if you didn't hit 10, even if you couldn't get past 1, gently open your eyes and simply observe what you see, feel, and think. Now, some of you still have your eyes closed, and that's okay. But the room feels different, doesn't it? Or it does to me anyway. Now, I'm glad this isn't the end of the conference, because I wouldn't want you to do this and get in your car and drive home. That's not the time to meditate in this relaxed way. But in a very short period of time, did anybody feel any change in their body, their sense of relaxation, ability to settle? Okay. And I don't know how many minutes we did this, but it wasn't that long, not that hard to put into your everyday. The power of the breath. And breath is just a tool. I love cats. I couldn't resist this one. Don't you wish? You could just, okay, everybody, time out. This is what I want to do. And some parts of mindfulness meditation really look at how we can use the breath and the mind to relax particular areas of the body and work through that sensation. And that's really important because we go through life like this. We handle all this stress on our shoulders, and we often don't have the awareness or the appreciation of the tightness, the stiffness, the energy, the stressed energy that goes into this. And so mindfulness meditation can bring the idea of relaxation to the body and the practice of bringing it to the body. But because of time constraints, I'd like to go straight to mindfulness meditation, because to me, this is the one that really brings it all, or one of the techniques that really brings it all home. And I like this picture because this is yet one example of bringing awareness to the little moments. I mean, just seeing the dewdrop in your life. What is your dewdrop? Maybe it's the sunset, maybe it's the sunrise, but maybe it's something as subtle and as small as that tiny little dewdrop. Now, when I first started giving these lectures, I had just moved from Seattle, and somebody told me, we don't have dewdrops here in Colorado. We have plenty in Seattle, of course. But it's really seeing, feeling, experiencing. You can be in a wheelchair. You don't need to have the best legs in the world to open your eyes and see, your ears and hear, your thoughts, perhaps, in awareness and feeling. Mindfulness is bringing awareness and attention to the present without judgment. What I like about this statement and what I like about mindfulness is the without judgment. So we can be good about bringing our awareness or attention to the moment, but usually it's very judgy. Oh, this is bad. Oh, this hurts. Oh, this is gonna hurt. Or even, oh, this is so great. And sometimes we put labels on something before it even happens. So we are cluttering the moment with our cognitive chatter and thoughts before it even happens. Or we are rubber stamping and legitimizing a particular judgment about this is terrible, this is bad. Now there are things and moments or times where things are bad. But mindfulness reminds us that we do have control and how we label that. We can put the full force, this is bad, ain't gonna get better, and that's that. Or, yes, this is the experience in the moment. I know this moment will pass. Or, I know I have control in the downward spiral I may or may not apply to this moment. That's where I think mindfulness is particularly helpful. And the whole field of mindfulness entered the medicine realm with the help of a gentleman called Jon Kabat-Zinn. And Dr. Zinn was a microbiologist, and he just happened to have some background in Zen Buddhism. And what happened at the University of Massachusetts, rheumatologists, so joint doctors that treat arthritis, came up to him and said, help us, we don't know what to do. We have our patients that are in such severe pain despite the treatments we have. We feel like we have nothing else to offer. Can you help? And if you're interested in this mindfulness-based stress reduction, one of the best books I feel that Jon Kabat-Zinn has written is one of his earliest books, and it's Full Catastrophe Living. And it really is about embracing life and dealing with and the resilience to the catastrophes that are part of life. Let me read this poem to you. Enough. These words are enough. If not these words, this breath. If not this breath, this sitting here, this opening of life, we have refused again and again, until now. It reminds me of as a clinician, I see people with medical conditions, mostly Parkinson's now, but all of us have some experience with their health, a medical condition, or emotional experience. And if left unchecked, very easy to become that condition, to become that symptom, to become that problem. This opening of life we have refused if we let it. And mindfulness. Let me turn around and read you this poem. Take a look at the picture there, Mary Oliver and Why I Wake Early. Why you find that moment in your day, whether it be just looking out the window and seeing that one ray of sun, whatever it might be for you. Everyone has it there. Hello, sun in my face. Hello, you are who make the morning and spread it over the fields and into the faces of the tulips and the nodding morning glories and into the windows of even the miserable and the crotchety. Best preacher that ever was, dear star that just happens to be where you are in the universe, to keep us from ever darkness, to ease us with the warm touching, to hold us in the great hands of light. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Watch now how I start the day in happiness and kindness. Now, I'm not suggesting life is Pollyannish, but I am suggesting that there might be moments that could color your day, brighten your day, if you're open to it and aware. Now, this is Jon Kabat-Zinn, and he talks about the practice of mindfulness. Have you ever had the experience of stopping so completely, of being in your body so completely, of being in your life so completely, that you knew, and that you knew, and what you didn't know, that what had been and what was yet to come, and the way things are right now, no longer held even the slightest hint of anxiety or discord? It would be a moment of complete presence beyond striving, beyond mere acceptance, beyond the desire to escape or fix anything or plunge ahead. A moment of pure seeing, pure feeling, a moment in which life simply is, and that isness grabs you all by your senses, all your memories, by all your very genes, by your loves, and welcomes you home. And I think this is particularly pertinent, too, with living in the setting of any condition, but particularly chronic conditions as well. With chronic conditions, there could be the life of stress, anxiety, and striving for always having something better than what you have. The anxiety of the worry of what you might have in the future, even though that future may never come to fruition as you see it. That never being settled in the moment because the fear of the future or the strive for something different, something better. Now, the value of intention doesn't necessarily mean, okay, I'm just going to watch the stars and see the sunset and what is. The value of intention also brings this idea of awareness, that understanding what is important to you, what you would like to see change to make those intentional changes into the future. Now, let's do a brief mindfulness meditation. Then I'd like to maybe open it up to Q&A as to the power of how it can be used or conceptualized in health and well-being. But before I do, this is one of my favorite phrases by Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a Korean Buddhist monk. And he's really talking about loving kindness. And that is a part of mindfulness as well. And loving kindness is about bringing compassion into your world, into your life, into our world. And it's also about bringing compassion into yourself. Oh, I should have done this better. Oh, if only I could do it this way. If only I could look this way. If only I did my 10 minutes of exercise as I should have the other day. I mean, actually being kind to yourself is the first place to start. And this is something that I like to repeat when I do some of my own breath work, because it brings a smile to my face. Breathing in, I calm. Breathing out, I smile. Beautiful moment, present moment. And it reminds me, even in those terrible moments, those stressful moments, it's still my moment. I'm still living that moment. And this poem reminds me that I have choice in how I might influence that moment. Now, sometimes better than others. None of us are expecting to be perfect, but beautiful moment, present moment, because it's your moment. You could influence it in a beautiful way or keep it in that negative way. Even if you decide, I am just having a shitty day. You have this on tape, but oh well. I am just having a shitty day. And you decide, nope, this is my day. This is my shitty day. You've at least made that decision, this is your shitty day. You didn't just let it happen to you. You actually made that your intention. Now, I don't want you to do that every day. But you see the difference? You see the difference? Letting it happen to you and versus you taking control about how it will happen and how it will play. It's almost like being your own producer and director of your own play. The cut you want to take. Cut 1, nope. Cut 2, nope. Cut 3, well, it's getting a little closer. This is how I want my moment to be. And if cut 1's not okay, that's all right. We're moving on. It's the next moment. Things didn't go well yesterday. We're moving on. It's the next day. And that's what mindfulness helps us, the attention to the moment, but without judgment. So I'm just going to lead a few minutes of mindfulness meditation, then we can open it up for Q&A or observations. So again, if you'd like to do this with me, I invite you to. If you don't want to, it's whatever you feel totally comfortable with. And I'd like you to just sit in your chair. If you can, reach the floor with your feet, do so. And the idea is bringing your attention just for a few seconds to your body. Sitting up straight if you can. Paying attention to comfort though. Being kind to your body, but feeling the strength in you, sitting in your chair, feet planted on the earth in a strong, capable way, not just in body, but in spirit and intention. In this mindfulness practice, we sometimes can use our breath as a tool to bring our attention, and more specifically, our awareness to the moment. Bringing our awareness to our in-breath, the space in between, and the out-breath. Bringing your attention to the moment without thought, without judgment, simply being, feeling, experiencing the sensations, the sounds, the feeling, the body sensation in the moment. If you lose track, attention veers, thoughts creep in, that's okay. That's life. See them for what they are and let them go. No judgment, no right, no wrong. Your thoughts are a part of your every microcosm of your day. But in the moment, your awareness of the thoughts comes forth. No label, no good, no bad. Awareness. Thoughts creep in. Let it go. See them for what they are and let it go. Breathing in, I calm. Breathing out, I smile. Beautiful moment, present moment, my moment. This moment is just that. It doesn't last. This moment spills into the next moment, just as your breath, your gentle in-breath, nourishing your lungs, cleansing out-breath, leads to the next. Like waves on the shore. Breathing in, pause, breathing out. Bringing awareness to your breath, awareness to the moment, awareness to your internal sight, sounds, and feel. Knowing that distractions, sounds, frustrations, all a part of it. Part of the practice. See it for what it is and let it go. Knowing you can always turn your attention to the power of the breath. Breathing in, I calm. Breathing out, I smile. Beautiful moment. Present moment. Your moment. And at any time, if you'd like to open your eyes and just sit quietly, or if you prefer to keep them closed and continue this exercise, it's your moment. It's your call. It's your intention. It's your practice. Beautiful moment. Present moment. And what you might experience in this practice of mindfulness is going beyond just the settling of the breath and bringing in the mindfulness and awareness of the moment, but the judgment and the kindness that can go with letting that judgment go, letting that label go. And this is a practice, as simple as it seems, that as you do it, it starts percolating into your daily routine. You start to catch the judgment. You see something. Before you even know, you're attaching a judgment to it. And that awareness allows you to control the judgment. I see a coffee stand. I love my coffee. My judgment right away is, oh, great cup of coffee. I might be disappointed, though, if I just go into it blindly like it's going to be a great cup of coffee. Or, I know when I put my feet on the floor today, it's just physically, it's just not going to be the best day. Can go into the day blindly like that, or the awareness that your mind has already set up the day in that way. Maybe it's how that day will play out, or maybe on just one occasion in one moment, you'll intentionally shift gears a little bit for that day. And so mindfulness, I feel, helps all of us, because we're all in this together, in this experience of life, helps us intentionally move our thoughts, feelings, ideas in a direction we so choose, and hopefully one of awareness with compassion. Because I think, obviously, in this world that we live in, that's something we need to be reminded of a little bit more, compassion for ourselves and others. So if there's any questions about this, I'll be happy to, or any observations, or many of you have a great experience in this already, if that you'd like to share. Anyone have any?
Is there any relationship or connection between the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system and type A and type B personality?
So the question is there a relationship between type A and type B personality and these nervous systems? And you know, as we're able to measure the activity of these nervous systems, we're able to understand, yes, indeed. And not only that, we're even understanding that the control, the set or the gain on these branches of nervous system are even set as early as infancy. So some people are wired a little bit more to the fight or flight and reactive, and some are wired a little bit more to the relaxed, the type A versus type B. But that doesn't mean that we can't influence and go back in either way. Being all type B is not great. Being all type A certainly has its issues as well. So this helps actually, I think, balance and control this. But yes, you know, we are able to measure people do have different gains, or I like to say the volume is turned up or down one way or the other. And our experiences, our genetics, our experiences are going to influence this along the way. Any other comment?
Well, kind of expanding on that left brain, right brain concept, is someone who is left brain or right brain more likely to easily adopt this practice?
So is someone who's left or right brain more likely to adopt this practice? And so the first thing I remind you is adopting the practice. Let's take judgment out of it. We can all adopt the practice. We're not going to put because this is what we do, right? And we all put this measuring, it's like, oh, I can't meditate. I just can't. I tried, I just can't. You know, we've actually labeled our experience there and we've thrown it out the window. We do see that there might be some people who are just more natural into embracing and experiencing this. Neurologically, we're actually able to see some changes with meditation from the right to the left. So the right side of the brain, which might be the more emotional, reactive side of the brain, and there's nothing wrong with emotions and reactions, but a shift to the left-sided frontal areas of the brain, which are more about reasoning and intention and response. So neurologically, we're actually able to see shifts like this through brain studies of people who are experienced mindful meditators. So we're changing our brain chemistry, physiology, and brain activity with this. And the example is react versus respond. Same thing, right? Not really. React is you see something, you're autopilot, you've reacted. Before you know it, you've done whatever you've done, thought whatever you've done, experienced whatever you have. Respond is you see something and then you choose how to respond. You might even do the same thing you did when you reacted, but the power of choice is there. And that brings it from the more primitive, reactive part of the brain to the more reasoning, higher order, intentional part of the brain. And the idea is if we can practice, we can make that a little bit more of our autopilot way of doing things. It's like being in the experience. You've been in the experience where you said something, you're like, oh my gosh, that came out of my mouth. That isn't really how I wanted it to be. But that was the quick reaction without that may be using the inside voice before the outside voice, able to tone it down a bit. But this is how it can help with really any of life's bumps or bruises, whatever we all have that may be thrown our way. Any thoughts about that? Or just to give you a little bit of my background. So I'm a neurologist, and so as a neurologist, I kind of grew up pretty nerdy. I didn't grow up with this stuff, and my background actually is in engineering. So, I have my bachelor's degree is in engineering. It's all numbers and vector diagrams and so on. So even a nerdy engineer neurologist can embrace this. So I didn't have a creative bone in my body. That's the judgment side said to me. But as I looked at this 30,000-foot view that is life, it made big sense to me.
Do you have any mindfulness tapes that you recommend?
Mindfulness tapes, there's so many different mindfulness tapes out there. And one of the things I have that I feel is hard to recommend for me is that sometimes it's the power of the person and the voice and the words that they choose, and that's such a personal thing that I find that what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for the other. Just so you know, I'm actually in the process of audio taping some and having it available online for just that reason. But the mindfulness-based stress reduction movement, they have a lot of audio if you search MBSR. Healthjourneys.com is a wonderful website that has so many mindful and mind-body resources and CDs available that are pretty inexpensive. And there's even free downloadable stuff. But I find that what is good for one person is not necessarily good for the next, is why I have a difficult time answering that question. So keep searching.
Is mindfulness and self-hypnosis, are there differences
is mindfulness and self-hypnosis different? Yes, they are, and like all of these mind-body practices, there's a tremendous amount of overlap as well. So the hypnosis really does focus your level of awareness into a particular intention, and that intention might be stress management, weight reduction, general health and well-being, enhanced memory performance. But it doesn't necessarily have the same attention to just the awareness of the moment, the awareness of the cognitive chatter that influences the moment, the ability to influence that, take the judgment away, and make that moment yours. So to me, people say meditation, it's all about sitting around and doing nothing, right? And it seems that way. But really, when you think about it, it's a very active routine, gymnastics that you're doing in a way, which is a little bit different than hypnosis. But I find that, there's, like everything else, there's not one size fits all with these mind-body techniques. People say you have to do hypnosis, you have to do breath work, you have to do mindfulness, you have to do guided imagery, you have to do this form of yin yoga. I believe that, they're all going to have some similar influences, and find what's best for you.
I'm doing Tai Chi, when I have a hard time getting into it, but you find your inner voice after time, and it's inner peace, and for me, not having noise and having just where I listen to myself, and sometimes I'm off and I'm doing all the moves and not even knowing what I'm doing, but I'm in a different place, so it's been very helpful in that too sometimes, but finding the right person, connecting, like you said, just like the video tapes too, finding that inner self.
Yeah.
So
So Tina mentioned her experience with finding her inner self and her inner flow in the process of learning Tai Chi, and it took some time to get there. And so it is a practice, but you also found an instructor that was very good at helping you connect with that. But there also, Tai Chi is a perfect example of the practice of non-judgment, because Tai Chi is very hard. All of these physical things that you do are very difficult. And, I don't know how many times I hear somebody say, if just I used to be a marathon runner, if just I could run again, like I did. And, first and after, well, but you're not 20 anymore. That's the first thing. But it's that judgment about how you're doing it differently now that brings another set of negativity to the action. And some people don't do because they were that wonderful athlete when they were 20, and at age 40, 50, 60, 70, they focus on what they are not doing. I'm not doing this right, I'm not doing this fluidly, I'm not doing this fast, I'm not doing this right, I'm not doing this right, I'm not doing this right, I'm not doing this right. That loving kindness. Or, yes, my walking is changed, but I have this, damn it, and I have that. And I have days that I'm walking good, and I'm going to live in that moment. But I'm not going to live in the, what's the word for it? Live in the distress and the disappointment when I don't have that moment. Those are some hard lessons. Those are some hard things to struggle with. But it starts with an awareness. It starts with awareness of this. And once again, I said, what I presented to you today is really just a Post-it note. So first, get a Post-it note and just write kindness and moment, and then you could think of today, because there's nothing special I told you. There's nothing special that you learned. It's just a piece of paper with a bunch of glue on it, but it's a Post-it note, so somebody went really far with that. And I hope that it can just maybe flavor, just maybe keep the color a little bit more vibrant in your day. And if your day doesn't have that color, so be it. Maybe the next day. So I would love to, if you are interested in attending an integrative medicine workshop where I talk a little bit more about these things. And I'm also trained in integrative medicine, so I'm very interested in lifestyle and diet and exercise and mindfulness. I don't believe that all in health is about a pill or a vitamin. So I think there's a lot we can do to feel better despite wherever we are with our condition or symptoms. Then sign my handout, and I have some flyers about my book. But I really hope that you can take this Post-it note home. Thanks.